my special guest today is chef, author, and executive chef of the restaurant called Halifax in Hoboken, New Jersey, one of my favorite little towns. I guess it's really not little in Jersey, but is Seadon Shouse. And he's the author of Halifax, and he's going to share with us some stories about growing up in Nova Scotia and his book and his restaurant. And wow, we have a lot to talk about. Seadon, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I guess where to start. So tell us tell us the name of the book. And I know it's related to your name, right?
Yes, the name of the book is From the Hill by the Sea, and that's actually what my name, Seadon, means in an old Nova Scotia baby book of names. So my parents found the name, it kind of fit for where I grew up and named me, and then we named the book the same, which I think fits for the book as well.
Wow, so Seadon means from the hill by the sea.
That's correct.
Wow, that is really interesting. And what was your inspiration to write a book with your recipes? And it's got stories in it, right? Also.
It does, yeah. Every recipe has a story associated with it. Most of them are from growing up in Nova Scotia or throughout my travels kind of since.
Right.
Some are more current and stories, but most are from my childhood. But
Right.
really the inspiration, I mean, I don't know any chef that wouldn't love to have a cookbook.
Exactly.
And I mean, not to get into too long of a story, I think we're limited on time here, but
Yes.
one of the designers for the restaurant, Anakari, she came up with the idea about 3.5 years ago. She helped us design the logo and the name and the kind of feel of the restaurant. And she 3.5 years ago, she brought to myself and the owner of the restaurant, Michael Berry, an idea of doing a cookbook kind of based off of me, but also the restaurant. And she kind of helped design it from the beginning. And then we kind of all together created the book.
Right.
We did a photo shoot in Nova Scotia.
Oh,
Did a photo shoot also in a studio in Brooklyn. So it was a very kind of personal project that took a little over 3 years to make.
Wow. Oh, of course, they do take a little bit of time. I think a lot of people don't realize it. So tell us, I've only been to Nova Scotia maybe I think 2 times, and I just loved it. It kind of reminded me a little bit about being in, like, I was in Scotland or something, the landscape. Do you know what I'm talking about? I was
Yes.
kind of like got that feel, but I loved it. It's just really beautiful, bucolic, very kind of, at least it was quiet when I was there. It was a little while ago, but tell us some story. Do you have any, I know you probably have lots of interesting stories, but any stories you'd like to share with us about growing up there from your book?
Well, I mean, there's lots,
I'm
but we
sure.
can talk about a few. I mean,
Yes.
growing up in Nova Scotia 30 some years ago, 40 years ago was kind of a little bit different place than it is now. It's very similar in some ways, but it's very rural, or it can be, at least where I grew up was quite rural. I lived down a mile-long dirt road right on the ocean. When I was born until I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, we didn't have any power at all. Then we got a windmill for power. Then a few years after that, I think when I was 6 or 7, we got in actual power from the grid. So it was kind of a different childhood growing up.
Yes.
When I was quite young, I mean, we had our own goats. We milked our own goats for milk for when we were kids, and stored it in a stream in front of our house inside of a wire mesh thing to kind of keep it cold because we didn't have refrigeration.
Yes.
But kind of growing up like that has kind of helped develop me as a chef now with all the modern kind of tools and refrigeration, of course, and lights and all that, to kind of appreciate my upbringing and appreciate preserving foods. Root cellar we had, I mean, that was the only way we could keep kind of produce cool for in the summertime, was we had a root cellar underground that we kind of stored things in. So same type of growing up is now developed me into fermenting my own hot sauces, fermenting my own pickles, fermented miso, kimchi's, all different kinds of items that we're doing in the restaurant, which I kind of didn't really until developing this book realize the kind of relation to my upbringing that it really had. I've been doing it for years and didn't really kind of put 2 and 2 together to realize kind of where it kind of came from.
Exactly. So I know you said the recipes aren't typical, and I really don't remember if there was any kind of like typical local kinds of things in whatever part of Nova Scotia I was in. I don't remember, but is there anything like very kind of local to, say a part of Nova Scotia that is one of your favorite recipes in the book, in the restaurant, something similar to, I just remember, I think there was a lot of great seafood there, right? Because
Of
there
course, yes.
probably would be. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
But,
so yes, I mean the seafood in Nova Scotia is known for seafood. It's
yes.
typical. The typical Nova Scotian cuisine is quite simple, but
Uh-huh.
ingredient driven and seasonal because it's what's available. So
Yes.
whatever's being caught that day is kind of what typically is on the fisherman's table.
Uh-huh.
Whatever's being grown in the garden is what they're eating,
Hmm.
which is really what the restaurant is. Halifax is really all about as well. We try to be seasonal, sustainable, local as possible.
Uh-huh.
So in Nova Scotia, I mean, there's in the book, sorry, there's quite a few recipes that are influenced by Nova Scotia dishes. One in particular, a Nova Scotia dish is called hodgepodge,
Uh-huh.
which is a soup. It's basically a vegetable chowder, let's call it.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's typically made in kind of late spring, early summer, with all the new vegetables. So it's with new potatoes, new carrots, green beans, kind of whatever vegetables are available in this at one time, and it can
Uh-huh.
be a mixture of any kind of vegetables. Typically, you leave them kind of whole and kind of chunky, and it's kind of a chowder in that there is a little bit of cream. It's not
Right.
super thick, but it's kind of cream, butter, vegetables, and herbs. It's very simple. So I do a kind of a version of that in the book,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
I do it kind of with a mixture of a dish that I do on a restaurant that I have in California as well, called Timber
Uh-huh.
Cove.
Uh-huh.
And there I do a smoked trout chowder. So I kind of took the smoked trout chowder idea and the Nova Scotia hodgepodge and do a smoked fish kind of hodgepodge so it's basically a vegetable kind of based chowder that I then add some smoked trout in at the very end
Uh-huh.
to kind of make it kind of a little more unctuous, a little more kind of meal like. So that's one kind of dish that's Nova Scotian, but I put a little twist on it as
Yes.
well.
Yes. And that's delicious. And I think the simplest dishes are really the best. So I love it because it sounds like it's just all real local seasonal ingredients, which sounds great. So I guess we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to ask you, tell us where we can find you. Do you have a website, or is there a website for the restaurant?
There is, yes. So the restaurant is halifaxhoboken.com.
Okay.
That's the capital of Nova Scotia, Halifax, and then Hoboken, New Jersey.com. And
Yes.
that is also where we have the book From the Hill by the Sea for sale on the website as well.
Uh-huh.
We can ship it to you, or you can of course come into the restaurant
Restaurant.
and pick up a
Yes.
copy as well, a signed copy, of course. So
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thanks so much for being here, and much success with the book and the restaurant also. Thank you.
thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.